Long before his name was etched into libraries and steel empires, Andrew Carnegie was just a skinny kid from Dunfermline, Scotland, dirt poor, crammed into a one-room cottage with no floorboards and barely enough food to eat. When famine and joblessness hit his hometown, his family had no choice but to leave. They packed up what little they had and crossed the Atlantic, chasing the promise of America. They landed near Pittsburgh, a smoky, grinding steel town that chewed up the weak. Carnegie was just 13. No high school, no connections. Just 5 years of basic schooling and a family desperate to survive. So he went to work not with ambition, but necessity. His first job? Tending bobbins in a textile mill for $1.50 a week. That's not a typo. A week. But Carnegie didn't stay stuck. Every new job he took, he treated like a stepping stone. First a boiler stoker, then a telegraph messenger, then a clerk. While other kids were chasing girls or whiskey, Carnegie was chasing opportunity, learning Morse code, perfecting his penmanship, outworking everyone around him. By 18, he was making $35 a month, 30 times his starting wage. But more importantly, he had made a friend in a high place, Thomas Scott, a railroad executive who saw something different in him. That relationship would change everything. Most 8-year-olds, if they suddenly started making decent money, would do one of two things: blow it on fun or hoard it in fear. Carnegie did neither. Instead, he made a move that would have terrified most people, especially someone who grew up in poverty. He took his hard-earned paycheck and invested it. Not just that he mortgaged his parents' home and borrowed money from old coworkers to buy shares in a company called Adams Express. Let that sink in. A teenager, with no financial education, risking it all for a chance at something bigger. He didn't do it recklessly. Carnegie understood one critical truth that most people still miss today. Money sitting idle is just frozen potential. But money put to work? That's power. And it paid off fast. That first investment ballooned from $50,000 to over $600,000. Carnegie had tasted leverage, not just financial, but intellectual. He started buying shares in railroads, bridges, oil companies, industries that were reshaping America from the ground up. And here's the wild part. He didn't keep reinvesting using new savings. He rolled profits into more profits. He built a machine that fed itself. That's not saving. That's strategy. While most people play it safe with their money, Carnegie played on a different level. He wasn't just investing in companies, he was reading the future. He poured money into bridge-building firms at a time when America was stitching itself together with steel and stone. He understood what others didn't. The country wasn't just growing, it was transforming. And transformation needs infrastructure. But Carnegie didn't stop there. He went further into the unknown oil. Back then, investing in oil wasn't some polished Wall Street move. It was a gamble. You bought up useless patches of land in the middle of nowhere, chasing whispers of black gold. Carnegie bought thousands of acres based on nothing but rumors, and sometimes he struck out. Some of his land never produced a drop of oil. It sat there, dead weight. But then there were the wins, like the oil field he bought for $40,000, which ended up generating $1 million per year for a decade. By the end, it was worth over $5 million. The lesson? Carnegie didn't fear losses because he knew how to calculate upside. He mixed risk with reason, courage with caution, and that balance is what turned him from a worker into a titan. Most people point to their first paycheck as a milestone. For Andrew Carnegie, it was a mission. One day, early in his career, he received a small bonus, just $2.50. Not much, even then, but he didn't spend it on himself. He didn't stash it away either. He gave it to his parents. And in that quiet act, something awakened in him. Years later, Carnegie would say no amount of recognition, no victory in business or fame ever felt as good as that moment. It was the first time he felt like he was lifting the people he loved out of struggle and into dignity. That's when it clicked. He didn't want to be rich for the sake of riches. He wanted to build a life where his parents would never have to worry again. And that fire, that selfless burning reason became his fuel. He wasn't chasing yachts or golden mansions. He was chasing freedom, not just for himself, but for his family. And here's the takeaway. If you're only trying to get rich for you, you'll burn out.
But if you've got a reason bigger than yourself to care for your parents, to give your kids a better life, to lift others who may never even know your name, then no obstacle can stop you. Because now, your hustle has a heartbeat. There's a story Carnegie used to tell, not about stocks or steel, but about a tired old man in his hometown. The man had lived through hardship, loss, misfortune. People pitied him. They said he had one of the most tragic lives they'd ever seen. But the old man simply smiled and said, "Yes, my friends, all of that is true. But here's what's strange. 9/10 of my troubles never actually happened." That sentence hit Carnegie like lightning. He realized most of what holds people back isn't reality, it's imagination. The fear of what might go wrong. The worst-case scenarios that never actually play out. Our minds are masters at making up horror stories, failure, humiliation, bankruptcy, ridicule. But 90% of the time, they're just fog, noise, fiction. Carnegie took that to heart. He stopped letting imagined fears dictate his actions. And when you do that, when you step into the unknown without being paralyzed by what if, you start moving faster than everyone else. You start seeing opportunities where others only see risk. Fear is natural, but letting it steer your life, that's a choice. And Carnegie chose courage. One afternoon, a young man came to interview Carnegie, eager to hear stories of business conquests, ruthless deals, legendary rivalries with tycoons like Rockefeller. But Carnegie surprised him. He didn't talk about wealth, or steel, or strategy. He talked about sunlight. "The most important skill I ever learned," Carnegie said, "was the ability to forget my problems and smile." He believed optimism wasn't just a personality trait, it was a tool, a superpower, one that let him recover faster, lead better, and see clearly even when things looked dark. "Your mind," he told the young man, "is like your body. You can train it. You can pull it out of the shadows and into the light." And that's exactly what he did. While others drowned in doubt and setbacks, Carnegie looked for what was still possible. He wasn't naive, he was disciplined in his optimism. He refused to be crushed by worry or poisoned by negativity. And that mindset, it opened doors no dollar amount ever could. In the end, Carnegie's greatest asset wasn't his money, it was his mindset. He didn't have a fancy education. He didn't come from power. What he had were rules he lived by. Take action. Invest wisely. Work hard, yes, but dream harder. Let your reason be bigger than yourself. And never, ever let fear make your decisions for you. Those rules took a poor immigrant boy and made him one of the richest men in history. And guess what? They still work. Because the truth is, wealth doesn't start in your wallet. It starts in your thinking, your habits, your beliefs. So if you're ready to change your life, not tomorrow, not next year, but today, you already have everything you need. You just have to begin. This is the channel where we don't just talk about money, we build mindsets that create it. So hit that subscribe button. Your future self will thank you.